Hello, and welcome to another episode of Just Cuz, the podcast where two cousins talk about things they love.
Just 'cause today we are doing our Halloween spooktacular. This is actually our take two of our Halloween spooktacular because we had some technical difficulties, but it is gonna get right along this time.
Yes, we're doing it right. No technical difficulties this time. But this is our spooky, scary special. We got some scary recommendations, some things we watch every Halloween. Sasha, what do you think we should get into first?
I think we should talk about things that we watch every Halloween.
I can get started with one of the things that I've talked about on this podcast previously, which is a animated show by the name of Over the Garden Wall. I don't want to get into it too much because there is a lot of great narrative setup and payoff in this show. It's about 10 episodes long. Each episode is, I think, 10 minutes. It's very digestible, but it is allowed to be incredibly scary, which is surprising because it comes from the same team that made Adventure Time.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's cool. You've told me about Over the Garden Wall before, but I didn't know it was the same team
Mhm.
as Adventure
Yeah,
Time.
no,
That's cool.
there are a lot of episodes that are scarier than others, but a lot of just the themes of it, where by the end of the episode it's not as scary, but initially you see something and just the imagery, it's fantastic.
Interesting. Okay.
Hmm.
What's like a premise, like a bare minimum, like without giving anything away, what's the premise of it?
Two kids get lost over the garden wall and they're in this unknown area, and it's weird because again, I don't want to get into it too much, but it seems like their life is real, but over the garden wall there is a lot of supernatural elements and just weird things, and they come across different communities and different people and talking animals, and it's fun.
Okay. Is it scary or is it just a fun Halloween romp?
It's a fun Halloween romp that is terrifying at parts.
Okay.
There is an antagonist who part of which is played by Christopher Lloyd, and he is also allowed to be very scary.
That's fun. Okay. I might have to
But
give it
what
a
is
watch.
yeah, definitely watch it. You could watch it in a day. Like it's that
Yeah.
easy to watch. But what is something that you watch every Halloween?
Well, I think I've mentioned it before, but I have this tradition where every Halloween, my mom and I watch Practical Magic together, which is a 1990s something movie based on a book by Alice Hoffman, and it stars Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock, and it is my favorite witchy movie ever. Like, is it the best witchy movie of all time? No, not even close. The plot is very questionable at best, but the movie is just so much fun. It's like small town witch vibes. It very much feels like everything to do with fall and Halloween, and it's all about sisterhood, and there are some really scary moments that scared me a lot as a kid. I don't know if they would be scary now. I don't know how good the CGI held up, but I did genuinely get scared by it as a kid. Basically, it is Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock play sisters. They are um, the Owens sisters, and they are witches, and there is a curse upon their family, and that's basically what the premise is.
And I've never even heard of this, and it sounds perfect for just October, fall. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
just the
No,
the
it's
small town feel. I love that
yeah,
stuff.
it's definitely something you want to watch with a cup of tea. I really love it, and I cannot wait. I watch it every day on Halloween, so I cannot wait for this Halloween. I will be watching it. I have seen, actually, this year is the first year in a little while that I've seen it popping up on every like Halloween recommendation list, like on Hulu and uh Amazon Prime, and just like there's a bunch
Hmm.
of lists of, oh, what are the best Halloween movies to watch. It's been popping up on all of those, and I was very surprised.
That's good to see. I definitely got to check that out.
Yeah.
One thing that I also read every October-ish, because I've already read it, but just the Halloween feel, is the Batman series The Long Halloween, which, just a quick synopsis, is a new serial killer by the name of Holiday arrives in Gotham and he starts killing a bunch of people. And honestly, that's the best Batman stories, or at least my favorite Batman stories, is when a new serial killer comes to Gotham and just disrupts the status quo.
Yeah.
But one thing that I also add to that, because it has a sequel that is not very well known, is The Dark Victory, which I like just as much, if not more. But that's also a Robin origin story, which is pretty
Mm.
fun.
I love a Robin origin story. I love Robin as a character. I'm very
Yes.
interested in Robins.
Can't wait to get a live action Robin.
Yeah, if that happens.
No, it's definitely happening. The Andy Muschietti movie will be that, but
Yeah.
hopefully that's
Yeah.
good.
Oh, it's my turn. Okay. Okay.
I
Something that
can't think
I
of any
watched.
good transition.
That's fine. I don't know how much I stick to the scary things. I'm looking at my list right now, and they all are. I watch different scary movies and scary stuff every Halloween, but the things that I watch the same one every Halloween season, they don't seem to be the scary ones, because the next thing on my list is, and you'll probably appreciate this, but every Brooklyn Nine-Nine Halloween heist episode. I watch every single one of those leading up to Halloween because they're just so much fun.
And that's something that's not on my list, but it needs to be
Yeah.
because I love the heist Halloween episodes in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. They always go so far with the spoofiness
They do.
and
They're just so good. You never expect, like, you should be expecting a twist at some point, but somehow you just never expect what's happening. You're like, "Oh gosh, wait, I didn't even see that coming." Ugh.
and Holt always has some ploy with Cheddar.
Yeah.
It's always fantastic.
His fluffy boy. Oh.
My last Halloween recommendation. I mean, I watch plenty of things just on Halloween. I guess I have plenty of scary movies to recommend later, but the most recent Batman movie with Robert Pattinson has become a staple of Halloween for me. I mentioned the Long Halloween comic, which was loosely based on, but oh my God, this movie is incredible, and I'll probably
Does
watch it on Halloween itself, like on that night.
does that movie take place on Halloween?
Yep, the first spoken word of the movie, if I'm not mistaken, is October 31st.
Oh, yeah. Okay. See, I saw the movie, but I only saw it once when it was in the theater. Like, I think like the day it came out or something. And now that you said that, I'm remembering like there's a bunch of people in masks and a bunch of people out celebrating Halloween, and then Batman goes and beats up a bunch of people. Okay, I'm remembering.
Yep,
I
yep.
had absolutely no recollection of that prior to this. Not even the not even the first time we recorded this episode did I think of that.
Honestly, now that you're even saying that, that monologue is coming into my head where he's just like, they think I'm the shadows, but I am the
Yeah.
shadows. Oh, I can't wait to watch it again. I've seen that movie so many times and I'll watch it a billion more times. I mean, you've probably seen a trend in my recommendations. I like Batman.
Yeah. Little bit, just a bit. Um okay, so the last things that I'm going to say I watch every Halloween um are the Mike Flanagan miniseries Haunting of Hill House and The Haunting of Bly Manor. Now, he has other ones. He has Midnight Club and Midnight Mass. Um
Hmm.
I did watch Midnight Club. I haven't finished Midnight Mass. I know you keep telling me
Which
that I
is
have
just
to, but I
sacrilegious.
still haven't. I know, I'm sorry. And the newest one, The Fall of the House of Usher, I just started watching. I'm literally on the second episode,
Oh,
and it's
yes.
so good so far.
It's incredible.
Um, yeah, I cannot wait to finish it. But The Haunting of Hill House and The Haunting of Bly Manor, I watch every single Halloween season. Um, they're just, since they've come out, they're just
Mhm.
so good. And they're, Mike Flanagan is just so good at what he does. And last year on Halloween, I introduced my roommate to these two series, and
Mhm.
they were absolutely obsessed with them. And she was like,
Because, I mean, how
this,
could you not be?
yeah,
They're
she
so
became
incredible.
absolutely obsessed. And she was like, this year we have to watch them again. And I was like, oh, we're going to.
I mean, I was going to talk about this later in my just scary movie recommendations, but everything that Mike Flanagan has made, whether it be his Netflix movie Gerald's Game, his
Also great.
his The Shining sequel, Doctor Sleep,
Mm-hmm.
uh everything that he makes, all of his shows like Hill House, Bly Manor, it's a tough pick between Hill House and Midnight Mass between my favorite, but you got to watch Midnight Mass because it
Mm-hmm.
is incredible.
I'll
And his
get through it
most
at some
recent,
point.
yeah, you will, and you'll love it. I know it.
I don't know why. I've watched the first two episodes, I think, like twice, and I just keep like stopping there, and I don't know why I can't continue.
I can't remember if it's the third or the fourth episode, but that's the one that gripped me because
Mm.
there is a premise that is very simple, and it's just one word that I could say. Like that's the thing of the show, but that's episode 3 or 4. That's when it drops the premise, and
Okay.
that's where it gets incredible. But yeah, his most recent show, like you said, House of Usher, I watched all the way through, and the way that it ties in not just Edgar Allan Poe's poems, but his short stories and just the majority of his work,
Hmm.
it's nothing short of a masterpiece.
Yeah, I can already see it in like I'm only like halfway into the second episode, and I can already see all of the like things that are planted from Edgar Allan Poe, and it's so compelling. I'm really excited.
Hmm. Like sometimes you know exactly what's coming, and sometimes it's very, very loosely tied to a poem. I
Right.
don't want to say too much spoilers, but yeah, it's incredible. But
Uh,
with that, should we move on to just scary movies or just scary recommendations?
yes, I'll get started. Okay, so the these came out. What is it, like 3 or 4 years ago at this point? I don't know, but they are really good. Um, oh my God, I'm literally blanking on the name. Hold on, it was 1994, 1987, and 1666. And there was the, oh, what were they called? They're Netflix
Oh,
original movies.
oh my, I know exactly what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
and
What were
there
they?
was three
Oh,
of
they were
them.
really good.
Yeah, and Sadie Sink was in two of them, and the other actor is Fear Street. That's what it is, Fear Street.
Yes, Fear
Okay, I
Street.
got it.
No need to look it up. I was about to, but you got it.
Those three movies, I swear to God. Okay, each one just keeps getting better than the last, and they build on each other, and they are classic scary movies, but they are all connected through time and through this like premise of this curse that's going on over this town, and it's just,
Hmm.
oh, they're so good. They're
And
really
each
really good.
movie using the same actor as like somewhat similar character and tying in themes between those
Yeah.
time periods. And I remember the third movie being so just panic inducing the
Yeah.
entire runtime.
It's really good because you start the third movie and you think you know what's going on, and you're like, okay, I've watched these two other movies. I'm pretty sure I know what's happening. Nope, you don't. And it's really good. God, I just love those films.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they're particularly scary. They're classic slashers, you know.
Hmm.
They
No,
fall,
they're
you know.
fun horror movies.
Yeah, they're like
Except for the third one. That one is pretty.
Hey,
It's a
in the
harrowing
first one,
watch.
okay, some girl gets her head sliced in one of those meat
Oh, the
slicing
bread.
machines in the grocery store. That's
Yeah.
terrifying. Um, yeah, no, there are some pretty gruesome deaths in this show. I mean, not show, in these movies. There are three
Mhm.
movies.
I remember that being like an event with Netflix where the three
hmm
movies were coming out. Was it every couple weeks or every week on
It was,
Friday?
yeah, it was every week on Friday. They dropped, so for 3 weeks, they dropped the movies one after the other.
Hmm.
And I remember I missed the initial drop, but on the night that 1666 was dropped, I watched all three of them in the same night.
Oh,
And that was a time, that was an event. I was just sat in my room in the dark just watching these movies, just freaking terrified. And then I came out into the kitchen and there were lights on and my roommate was there playing video games and I was like, what is life?
I've just been through an ordeal.
Yeah.
So, a scary movie that we have talked about on this podcast, but I still wanted to recommend was No One Will Save You,
Oh, so
which,
good.
if you have seen the poster or even if you've heard our episode on it, is just a alien invasion or just alien in your house and no one's gonna save this protagonist.
Yeah.
And that's it.
It's really good. It didn't have the right to be as good as it was and
Exactly.
just be released on Hulu with not that much fanfare. It's a really good film. There's not that much
Hmm.
more we can say about it that doesn't spoil, but we have a whole episode about it, so go listen
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah, go
Um
watch the movie and then go listen to our episode because
yeah.
it is worth it.
There's a movie that has been getting a lot of traction this year that's very, very scary. I haven't seen it. I don't know if you have, but Talk to Me.
That is on my list.
Okay,
I
go
went to
ahead.
the theaters and saw Talk to Me when it came out, and I am so glad I did because this movie, I mentioned panic inducing before, and that's what this movie is. It's not so much scary, but you get connected to these characters that are written so well and have these real problems, and I don't want to see them get hurt. So when they do, it's rough to watch. And the
Oh God.
whole movie, I won't get into spoilers again, but it's just the theme of peer pressure and the idea of tying supernatural or just paranormal stuff as a metaphor to drugs it's genuinely masterful. You got to watch this movie.
Okay, okay. I'll watch it. I just sometimes I don't like to see scary movies alone, and I don't have anyone who wants to go with me to see such a scary movie right now. So, I'll watch it
Within
eventually.
a couple minutes of watching this movie, you will know if you're in the right mood for it. Because if it puts you off, you could be like, "Nope, turning this off. I need to wait
Yeah.
for a better time." Because
Well,
it will hit you like a truck.
I heard, I don't remember who this was, but I heard someone talking about going to see Talk to Me. I don't know if it was a screener or if it was just like some sort of event viewing of it, but like someone was like too scared and like trying to leave halfway through or something, and then they were like, we don't allow that, you can't leave, this
Oh my
is an
god.
event or something. And I was like, that's terrifying. I don't want to be in that situation.
I I could see wanting to leave a theater at a specific part in this movie.
Oh God, oh God,
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
I love, like, I love horror movies, like slasher movies, but scary movies, it's not that I get scared from them, but sometimes I'm just like, I cannot. I can't do it right now. This is just, I'm not in the mood. I'm not in the frame of mind. I don't want that in my brain, you know?
You know what always gets me is
Hmm.
body horror. No
Yeah.
matter what, body horror will, like, even if I know it's practical effects and I could see it happening, or if it's, I could see bad CG slapped on top of it, it still somehow gets me. I
Mm.
don't know.
Body horror is a big one, but like there are lots of times when I like body horror. I'm like, okay, this is really fucked up, interesting.
Mhm.
I like it. I see what you did there. You know, I don't know. I'm not about it with like the whole possession stuff and the um I have no idea if talk to me is about. So I'm not saying this about talk to me.
Talk to
Just like
Me
in
is like,
general.
it's supernatural. It has
Okay.
paranormal elements.
Well, just like in general, I don't like possessions. I don't like uh
It's never really scared me personally, anything supernatural. And that's
well
kind of why I mentioned the characters being so great and I don't want to see them get hurt, because that's what scares me.
mhm.
The existence of ghosts, and I don't know why I'm talking about this, but it's something that I've never believed in, so
Yeah,
therefore
no, me
I
neither.
can't get scared from it.
Yeah, no, I don't get no. Okay, so that's not what I'm saying. I don't get scared from supernatural things or magic or that kind of stuff. I love that. I That's great in fiction.
Hmm.
I Ghosts are super interesting. Just like I think when you mentioned body horror it got me thinking. I think it's like the combination of possession and body horror. It's too much for me. I don't like it. Like when it's just like a normal possession, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like I don't know. It's just the whole autonomy of it all. It just gets me all freaked out in my head, you know?
I get that. I
Yeah.
definitely get that. And there's a lot of body horror in a lot of the recommendations that I have today on this episode. And it's probably a theme that you can see, because body horror, even whether it's good or not, like I mentioned before, if it has bad CG, it still creeps me out. So that's why when it's implemented well, like you mentioned, when they take that extra step to actually think about it, that's
Mhm.
when I appreciate body horror.
Yeah.
But another recommendation, honestly, as I'm going down my list until I just get to my favorite horror movies in general, I'm trying to get more scary, because if Talk to Me wasn't scary enough for you, Smile, at least for me personally, is a pretty scary movie. And that is something, if you've heard of the movie Smile, it has a very
Yeah, no,
simple
I've seen it.
premise.
Yeah.
You have seen it?
Yeah.
Oh, it creeped the hell out of me,
Yeah, it's
which
not.
is
It's creepy.
it reminded me of this Lovecraftian creature, like this simple idea that they just take to an extreme degree, and by the end it is, to me, utterly terrifying.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of the monster from It Follows, and just
Yes.
how it just like could be around any corner and you don't know who it could be, but it's coming and it's so scary. I don't, it was just like, ah. And then there's
Yeah.
creepy faces and the creepy smile. No, I don't like it.
No.
Okay, so I got a classic here. Halloween, just the first one. John
Oh my
Carpenter.
goodness.
So good. It's a classic. It still holds up. It is, Michael Myers, freaky little guy. Just gonna say it.
he, he's just a crazy little guy
He's just a crazy little
on his
guy.
rampage.
Yeah. And I liked the first scene of the movie when he's a little kid and he's just in this little clown costume holding a knife. He's like, "What did I do wrong? I just murdered my sister." Like it's so great.
Honestly, all of the Halloween movies, they dip and it goes up a little sometimes. The most recent ones have some fun scenes, but I don't know if they're good movies in general. But Halloween and Michael Myers, just a great,
Hmm.
what I talked about before, great premise, executed so well.
Yeah. And as Jamie Lee Curtis says, it's all about trauma. Uh
It's the trauma.
Trauma. She says it like that. Trauma.
I remember seeing a clip of all of those just put together. Oh my god.
I saw a meme once of Michael Myers coming after coming after her, right? And then it cuts to her in her Activia commercial being like, "This will change your life." Now that's a Halloween movie I would pay to see.
That is a Halloween movie I would definitely pay to see. But honestly, on the topic of just like classic movies that came out that have still had sequels that have come out recently, I have begun watching all of the Scream movies this October because,
That was the next thing on my list.
oh, nice. Good. Because I have only ever seen the first one. And now have seen the first, second, and third. Still haven't seen the fourth, fifth, and sixth, but I cannot wait to in the next few days.
Okay, guys, Scream is so good. I love the Scream movies, okay? They're not very scary. They are very much satires of the slasher genre, and I adore them. I I also didn't grow up with them. I saw them like I think 2 years ago at this point was the first
Mhm.
time I saw them. And I accidentally started with the second one because my friends we were gonna watch all of them. But the day that we were watching the first one, I was busy. I wasn't there. So I came for the second one and onward. And I started with the second one. And me and my friend who had never I already knew who the killers were for the first one. I just
Mhm.
because like obviously everybody pretty much knows. The first Scream is a classic, even if you hadn't seen it. I have seen it since I
Mhm.
watched it after I watched the second one.
Well, I
Um,
do have a story to tell, but you go on.
okay, but so me and my friends we were watching Scream 2 and there were two of us who hadn't seen it before and the rest had. And so one of them asked, he's like, okay, at the very beginning of the movie, they're like, who do you think or not the very beginning, like maybe 10 minutes into the film. And they're like, who do you think the killer is? And I was like, it's the next bitch I see. And then the next person that came on camera was the person who was the killer. And I went, that bitch. And
It's her.
and it's her. And I didn't just leave it there as a one-off joke. Like I kept saying through the whole movie, I was like, "Oh, you guys are all gonna be shocked when she's the killer." And then she was, and my friends were so upset. They were like, "I cannot believe you guessed it in the first 5 seconds." But it was great. They were like, I was struggling to keep my mouth shut the whole time. It was so funny. I loved it, and I was very shocked myself when I was right. Okay, what's your Scream story?
So I was watching it with my girlfriend who hadn't seen any of them, and we started off with the first one, obviously. We didn't skip to the second one, but my girlfriend guessed that it was Dewey who the killer was. And it's not just because that's the twist in Scary Movie, but I thought about how fun it would be to have that version of the movie where Dewey's the killer. Obviously, then you couldn't get all the sequels where Dewey has all those good character moments, but
Right.
I would like to see that version of the movie.
Yeah,
Very
that
much
would be.
so.
I mean, it would be interesting. I think it's called Scary Movie. That version of the movie.
No, that movie. Although I was about to say that movie is just a comedy, but that is a comedy to the 11th degree, whereas Scream itself is just a comedy. Like, it's
Yeah.
a horror comedy, but it's more of a comedy.
Well, I think it's because like Scream is clearly a satire. It's a satirization of a certain genre, and Scary Movie is a spoof of a genre. of all scary movies, and it takes liberties and equates, certain things that aren't necessarily true in all scary movies.
Right.
But they're both good in their
They're all
respective
incredible.
spaces.
Mhm. I
um
think the first one is clearly my favorite, but each of them has their
the first one's really good.
pros.
I've seen them all except for the sixth one, the newest one that's come out. I haven't seen that one yet, so maybe I'll watch it this Halloween, or
Mhm.
not, because it's only a few days till Halloween now, and I have a lot of stuff that I haven't watched yet.
There's still so much on my list. I still gotta watch 3 Scream movies.
Yeah.
But honestly, kind of just going back to genuinely scary stuff, because one thing that isn't so much scary but more unsettling for the entire runtime is Mad God, which, if you haven't heard, is a purely claymation movie made by one person, Phil Tippett, and it took him over a decade to make this movie. And there's not too much of a plot. It quickly devolves, but it is about this person or entity going down into the pits of hell to do something. And I don't even know what that is, because there's no dialogue, there's not a lot of visual exposition. You just have to look at what's going on and try to piece together as best as you can. And it's purely unsettling. That's the only word I could use to describe it. But it's clearly a well worth your time if you want to watch something that someone put a lot of work into, because that is clearly the case.
I've never seen or heard of Mad God. So I will definitely look into it, because that sounds interesting.
I've always had an underlying fear of claymation, just the way that it moves so jerky. I don't know. There's just something about it that terrifies me, and just the shapes of people and their faces. I don't like it, which is why a movie like Coraline unsettled me so much as a kid, which honestly should be on this list. Everything
Hmm.
by that studio, Leica or Lakai. My girlfriend loves those movies. I think
Yeah,
she's talked about wanting to talk about it on an episode, but yeah, we gotta have an episode on that sometime.
absolutely. They're so good. Coraline, Corpse Bride. Um, what's the other
Paranorman.
one?
That one
Paranorman.
might be
But
my
that
favorite,
is
if not for
Paranorman.
Kubo and the Two Strings.
Is Paranorman stop motion? Wait, I thought it
Yeah,
was a cartoon. Oh my god, am I crazy? Am
yeah.
I losing my
No,
mind?
it's
I've
just
seen that
so
film so
good
many
that it
times.
looks cartoon.
Yeah.
And Paranorman might be my favorite just because of the narrative and the payoff at the end. But Kubo and
It's
the
real
Two
good.
Strings is very much my favorite because it has really cool action. And I
Yeah.
like that when people
It's
punch each other. It's great.
Yeah. I'm just, I'm here for a classic. I love Coraline. I Oh, Nightmare Before Christmas, another stop motion one,
Hmm.
but it's not. I refuse the fact that that is a Halloween movie. First of all,
That
it says Christmas in the title. First of all.
I mean, that was originally on my list, but then you stamped that out, and
I
yes, you're
bullied you.
correct. It
I
is a
bullied you
Christmas
into
movie.
correct opinion. Yeah, it is a Christmas film, because it starts in Halloween and then the movie is about making their way to Christmas, okay? Just because the people of this movie happen to be citizens of Halloween Town doesn't mean it's not a Christmas movie.
You're
It's not
right.
it's not a Halloween movie just because they're of Halloween anyway. But you can watch it on both, and you should.
Yes, very much so. But
um,
honestly, a few recommendations, and I'll say them quickly because I hadn't even thought of them until a little earlier, is I feel like a lot of movies don't scare me nowadays just because I played the first 2 Outlast games and more so the game Alien Isolation. And after experiencing those video games, I will never be terrified more. It's just so creepy. If honestly, if you genuinely want to be scared, go get those video games. Outlast, the first 2. I don't know if there's more. I just say that, but and Alien Isolation, utterly terrifying experiences.
Oh, I would, but then I'd have to buy a video game console, and I don't want to do that. So
That's fair.
I will take your word for it, and maybe I'll watch a Let's Play online.
See, but that's the thing. It's only scary if you're the one controlling it. If you have
Oh,
to be
okay.
the one to press the forward button.
Yeah, you have to have agency.
Exactly. That's why the Last of Us game works better than the show. But that's a
Uh,
discussion for another time.
I I don't think that's true. I have seen
See,
The Last of Us game. I've seen playthroughs of it way before I've seen this show because you
mhm.
told me to. You told me to play it, and my way of playing video games is watching other people play them online. Um,
Which is fair. That's
yeah,
how a lot of people experience video games
yeah.
nowadays. But I have to bring up the argument that if it's you controlling the video game character, you create this bond, even if it's subconscious. It does something to your brain if you
Hmm.
are the one controlling it.
Yeah, because that's you, because that it's doing your actions, and that makes
Hmm.
sense. But I don't I think that the Last of Us TV show is a, a real testament to adaptation. And I think
Yes.
that it works just as well as the video game in a different medium. Because with a television show, you're never going to have that kind of, uh, as you say, bond with the character
Hmm.
because you're not controlling them, because it's just not that medium. That's not
Hmm.
what television is. But
And we're
they
off on
the,
this
the
tangent.
I don't
Sorry.
care.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep
No, no.
going.
Yeah. I was gonna say we're off on this tangent, but that's what the show did so well, is
Yeah.
it put you in the shoes of other characters besides from Joel and Ellie.
Yeah. And the creators of the show, who one of whom was also the creator of the game, really took all that into consideration when crafting the adaptation that it is, and it's a really coherent and well-told story, and I just love it. And
Yeah.
I don't think that it is less than the video game. I think they're just different. They're just two different mediums. You can't compare them that
Hmm.
easily.
And
Uh,
honestly, that could be a recommendation. The Last of Us
yeah, it's pretty
show
scary.
or game, it gets scary sometimes, and it's
they
pretty
don't sell
depressing, and
they
that's
don't
sad
celebrate
and
Halloween.
scary.
Yeah, it's real sad. They don't celebrate Halloween because it's after the apocalypse. But scary
Yeah.
zombie mushrooms. It
Yeah, that is a terrifying idea, and
is
they
because
really
those
play with
mushrooms
that.
actually exist. That's the worst part.
Yeah, but some things that honestly not necessarily scary, but they're just my favorite horror movie, which I had to narrow down to two, one of which I watched earlier in my teen years, and I got to the dog scene, which, if you know what I'm talking about, this is The Thing, and
Oh.
I turned it off and I waited about 24 hours and then I watched the whole thing and I loved it so much. It is still one of my favorite horror movies and its poster is up in my living room. I love this
Mhm.
movie
No, the
so
thing is
much.
great. Okay, what's your second one?
My second one is not scary at all, which is Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, great. It's that's such a great movie.
I love this movie so much and it's really, really, really funny. And it just plays with the meta idea of what a horror movie is and creating. I'm kind of getting into spoilers, but creating a horror movie inside of a horror movie. I love that premise.
Hmm. It's it's so unexpected where the movie takes you, that when you're watching it, it feels like you're watching two different movies at first because you're just like, whoa, wait, what just happened? And no, it's really, I love that movie. You
Mm.
introduced me to that movie on your old giant television. And
It was as wide as it was thick, and it was like 70 inches. It
it was
stuck out
crazy
from the
thing to
wall so
have in your
much.
living room. Yeah.
Yeah, which I was living. I was attending college, and I had just enough money to buy this m- terrible, dinky little house, and
Yeah.
I shoved that TV in there for no
It was
reason at all.
hilarious. It was hilarious because it was you, me, and both of our siblings, and we were just there watching this giant TV, watching Cabin in the Woods for us for our first time, and you had
Mhm.
obviously seen it
I
before.
sat all you guys down, Clockwork Orange style.
And it was just what a wild experience.
Hmm. Oh, it was so much fun. And I have
um,
so much fun every time I watch that movie.
yeah. No, it's a good one.
Hmm.
I should have put that on my list actually. But you have the right to it.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't think there's that much else. I think something that, classic Halloween at this point, Stranger Things. I feel like everyone gives Stranger Things a little watch around Halloween, or at least a little thought. Um
Love Stranger Things so
yeah.
much.
Great. Great show. Um
Hmm.
I right now I am watching along with The Fall of the House of Usher. I need a little refresher sometimes. So I am also rewatching What We Do in the Shadows. Um
Oh,
Such a perfect Halloween show. Uh Not
it's a
scary in the
great pick me up.
slightest.
You
Yeah.
just watch an episode of The Fall of House of Usher and then What We Do in the Shadows.
No, I'm a binger. I'll watch like half of a season of What We Do in the Shadows and then half the season of Fall of the House of Usher.
I don't know if there is any right way to do it, but that sounds better
Yeah.
than bouncing back and forth. That sounds pretty
That would
chaotic.
that would be totally absolutely incoherent.
Just whiplash.
That's how you fry your brain, kids.
But I don't know if it's necessarily moving on to the consumption corner, but I am kind of starved for content. I don't know if you are.
This month there's been so much content, but I'm always hungry for some more.
I'm always ready to eat. But yeah, it's just kind of continuing recommendations because I have only seen the first minute of it because then we had to record this podcast. But it was just before I started recording it, I started watching the Five Nights at Freddy's movie because I heard it was really
Oh.
bad and I had to see just how bad.
Really, really was it bad? I haven't heard a thing about it because I hate Five Nights at Freddy on principle, not because I genuinely don't know anything about it. But
I
um
know too much about it. I'm a little embarrassed about how much I know about this lore.
I know genuinely nothing about it. But I work in a bookstore where the Five Nights at Freddy have so many books, and they have so many books, they have so many graphic novels, and they take up so much room in my sections of the bookstore, and I have to figure out where to put them. They make my shelves look ugly, and I'm really upset about it, so I hate it on principle.
That is fair. And there's a lot of toxic fans in its fan base. And I
Oh,
think there was a fight at one of the screeners.
oh Jesus Christ.
Oh, it, I can't wait to finish this movie though. Although, again, there is a movie that came out, I don't know if it was a couple years ago or a few years ago, that I cannot help but feel is going to be better than Five Nights at Freddy's. And that is a movie starring Nicolas Cage, where he's stuck as a security guard fighting a bunch of animatronics. If you've seen it, it feels like a premise that's similar to Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't know.
That
I mean, you come to
sounds
that
way
conclusion if you
better,
want.
though. That sounds
It
way better,
is,
though.
I'm not going to say it's a good movie, but I had a lot of fun watching Willy's Wonderland, which is the name of this movie that I'm
Okay.
having a bit about. But Willy's Wonderland, I cannot help but think is going to be more fun. And I guarantee you I am also going to have fun watching Five Nights at Freddy's. You know, me
I have
being the
no
nerd I
doubt.
am. But is there anything that you've been consuming lately? I know we've just been
Well,
recommending stuff that we have anyway, but
well, the only thing that I can think of is I don't think it's a recommendation because I haven't started it yet. But I just bought this book called Masters of Death. And it is brand new out this year, and the premise is like haunted house, ghosts. So I'm excited for it.
hmm,
Um
that sounds
I
very good. I've never even
yeah,
heard of this.
it's I think the author is, ooh, I don't want to get it wrong. So I'm not gonna say any author, but it's Masters of Death, and it looks it looks promising. I'm gonna start reading it very soon,
Hmm.
and if it's any good, I'll let you know.
Another thing that I saw pretty recently, and I was reminded to put it on just as we were recording the podcast, which is the most recent Saw. And I mentioned body horror, how
Oh.
much it gets me. And Saw sometimes goes way too far with its body horror, and I hate how far it goes. But sometimes the scares are pretty good, and I can't help but be impressed with how well thought out the grotesqueness was. But I also have to mention the whole franchise is remembered for being so gross and disgusting. But that first movie barely has any gore. Like the moment when the guy's sawing his leg off, just you see like 3 frames of a saw going into a very obvious prosthetic leg, and then it cuts to the guy screaming. Like that's it. So you definitely watch that first movie. It's not as bad as everyone says it is.
And
Yeah.
I think with that,
I have a couple more things to
oh,
mention. I don't
fuck
know.
off then.
I just have to talk about them because I've been leading it up to. I don't know if you've seen Loki.
Yes.
That we will definitely talk about episode 4 of Loki, but before, I mean, we'll have a whole episode on,
Don't
the whole
spoil
season 2 of
anything.
Loki.
Don't
I won't
spoil
say anything.
anything.
But I also want to say just how good the game Spider-Man 2 was. Fantastic. Had some weird symbiote lore stuff that I wasn't expecting, but it paid it off well. The fact that Mr. Negative is in the game, and I should have seen that Anti-Venom was coming, and the fact that Scream was in this game, you have no idea what I'm talking about, but
Nope.
oh,
Just happy to be here.
fantastic.
Well, did we have any doubt that you were going to love that game? You've only been talking about it for months.
I love Spider-Man and Batman and Superman. I'm a simple guy.
That's
I
fair.
like good superheroes.
Yeah. I love
But
Spider-Man.
and I'll get you to love
I'm going to
Batman and
start a
Superman.
war. He's staring at me with like laser beam eyes as if he had Superman's powers. This is
One of these
dangerous
days,
territory for me.
we're gonna have a whole episode of getting you to like Superman
Okay.
because he's great. I'm writing my thesis.
I've already told you I'd love to like Superman. It just hasn't happened yet.
On that note, this has been a spooky, scary special.
Ooh.